life in of itself has no guarantee, except that we're out of here at some point. And so living very boldly, to me, it's the way to truly experience what it actually means to be alive. When something feels like a truth in your heart, I am a huge advocate for trusting that signal, that message, and fucking going for it. Are you trusting what you're feeling? Are you paying attention to what you're feeling? And then are you responding or ignoring what you're feeling? When you feel like it's time to move and fight and to get tougher, do it. Show up, rise up, stay with yourself, take the I, move it into the we, and keep it fucking moving. This is the ROXANNE Show. Get ready. It's time to rise. Welcome back to the ROXANNE Show and another Dear Roxy Q&A episode. I love these episodes, you guys. At the end of this episode, I'm going to share with you the best way that you can send me a question, and I would love, love, love to receive it and answer it on one of these episodes. You know, I've been stacking these episodes or these questions with my team from all of you in the community for over a year now. So we have a good amount to have started this series now, Dear Roxy. And I love it. I love being able to very specifically answer questions that support you. And what's really rad is knowing that, you know, your one question is definitely helping so many others, because oftentimes, you know, we're all living different lives, but we go through very similar things. So let's keep this Q&A Dear Roxy going. Let's start with the first one. Question from Sheila Ports from Cincinnati. Hi, Sheila. What's a moment in your life when you had to make a bold decision with no guarantee? Honestly, I would say a lot of moments in my life. I think, you know, anytime, and the no guarantee aspect of it, that just connects me with all my career decisions. And, you know, even starting the podcast, leaving my makeup career, you know, that was a career I had been building for about 20 years. And when I left at the top. I was in the top 1% of my field, and I worked my ass off to get there. It was a lot. It was a lot of life. I mean, it was an incredible, big part of my life. And to be in that position where I was officially saying goodbye to go into what I frame as my dharma, because it really is. I'm really, truly living what I believe I came here to do, which is really just putting my writing at the forefront and putting my speaking, you know, in this medium, the podcast, and even stage, and speaking in that way, you know, having that be what leads me in my career. I mean, it was a big deal to make that shift, because like when you're starting out and with anything, especially something like this, you know, there really is no guarantee, and there wasn't any immediate win or, you know, just something to celebrate. Like it took time to start to see the progress and get the wins. And so I would say, you know, just in short, that it was saying goodbye to almost 2 decades of a career to move into my dharma, to start the podcast, well, that's not true. I started the podcast while I was in my last career, but it was to go all in. Essentially, it was to go all in on me, So that was a big one. And it was one that I am so grateful that I said yes to. I said yes to me. And that's why, you know, in so many moments where I'm speaking on the show or through my writing on Substack or wherever I'm speaking or writing, I'm often sharing that go for it message, that life in of itself has no guarantee, except that we're out of here at some point. We don't know when that is. Hopefully it's, you know, we get to live long, beautiful lives, but ultimately life in of itself has no guarantee outside of the end point. that we will all face. And so living very boldly is, to me, it's the way to truly experience what it actually means to be alive, and making moves where you're really taking a chance. It's not just a career thing. You know, it could be where you want to live. It could be who you want to partner with. You know, and a lot of times those are bold decisions as well. But when something feels like a truth in your heart, you know, I am a huge advocate for trusting that signal, that message, and fucking going for it. Because regardless of whatever the outcome is, like, let's just say it quote unquote didn't work out in the relationship, or, you know, you move somewhere and it's not where you want to stay forever, or the career decision you made or the business decision you made, you know, didn't reap the ultimate reward or kind of vision that you saw for it. It was still part of your highest and unique path, like that move to make. And you can only know that by living into it, you know, and it's not, this is so important, and I'll close it on this, but these kind of moves, it's not just about the outcome. We want a great outcome for sure, especially no guarantee. It's like a gamble, and, you know, you're kind of going based off your feeling and the vision. And, you know, we want the vision, right? We want the best possible outcome. Of course, we all do. But what we really are gaining outside of whatever the outcome is, and what we actually want without knowing we want it until you become conscious of it, like maybe now you will always be, is you want to experience who you're becoming on the way there. You want to experience your own expansion as you are moving into that bold decision with no guarantees, because that the self-development, the self-expansion, the evolution is so major when you're making moves like that. And I really think, I mean, the mastery, self-mastery comes into the picture, self-actualization. I mean, this is what we came here to do. We came here to experience our greatest potential, and who knows what the fuck that even is. As long as we're living, we want to keep expanding on it, right? But we want to taste the process, and it's not always a fun thing to taste in the process, but in the end, it's really the thing that we're wanting. We want to know more of who we are, and you got to play with life, and a lot of times you got to play hard with life to really experience more of the dimensions of yourself and your potential. So I'm a huge advocate for fucking going for it. If you feel it in your heart, if it's strong, like it was for me, going all in on the podcast and, you know, my personal brand and all of that, then you go for it. I'm very grateful I did, so that I can be in this position to answer your incredible question. Thank you so much, Sheila. Amara K from London. What's up, Amara? A lot of people think self-trust means always making the right decision. What do you say to that? That's such a wonderful question. I don't believe so much in the right or wrong decision as much as I believe in the decision that empowers you versus disempowers you. So I have a quote that says, you can't make a wrong move when you make a true move. And those are the only moves that come from the heart. So in terms of self-trust being this continuum of right decisions, good decisions, however you want to frame it, empowering decisions, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think trusting yourself is not this, I make a decision and my judgment was good, it was on point, as much as it's, I'm going to make a decision. I can stay with myself and stand in that decision and that outcome, no matter what it is. And if it becomes a sort of lesson, then I know that I was meant to experience that lesson, and that lesson has an offering for me. And I know that if there are challenges, I know that I can handle those challenges. And I know that I will be better for it in some or many ways as a result of, moving through that challenge or those challenges. So trusting yourself to me self-trust is such a big part of the conversation, literally one of the biggest with me in my work. It's not just about decisions, but it's about the connection that you have with yourself. So another example of self-trust is if I say I'm going to do something, I can trust myself to do it. Why? Because I've proven that to myself. Because when I say I'm going to do something, I actually follow through. I'm very consistent to my word. And that shows me self-trust. So that's just like a side little addition there. But no, I really don't think that it's about making. In fact, I think sometimes we have to make decisions that don't feel good so that we can learn that A, to do the opposite next time, B, that even if the outcome and the experience wasn't what we wanted or wasn't great or kicked our ass or all of the above, that we still survived it. And maybe we even found a way to thrive from it in some way, because even when we are growing internally, we are thriving. That is thriving to me. Thriving isn't just some monetary, I'm getting all these wins out here, I'm climbing out here. That's not, no, thriving to me is an inner and an outer experience. 360 degrees of thriving. I don't want to just be thriving out here, but then internally, so a conversation for another time. But no, I don't believe that it comes down to making all the right decisions. But I do believe that the more that we learn to trust ourselves, the more that we become decisive, the more that we are better able to feel and honor our intuition and our instincts and to move from them. And that will usually land us into a stronger decision-making process and have stronger decision-making skills, which of course will promote more trust in ourselves. Like we can actually trust that we make decisions that add value to our lives and lead us in the directions that we need and want to go. Great question. Trey Matthews from New York. Trey is asking, what is something unexpected about you that your audience wouldn't guess? I've said this before. That was such a setup. I've said this before on the podcast, but it's just a really easy answer. A lot of people trip out when I say I'm an introvert. No, especially if you meet me in real life, because I'm very open. I'm certainly charismatic. I'm not the quiet girl in the corner. That's for sure. Unless I'm somewhere I don't want to be, but these days that doesn't happen much. Yeah, I'm an introvert. You could call me an ambivert, which is essentially somebody who is intro and extroverted. But no, I definitely, when I'm out and I'm in a setting that I enjoy, I am not quiet. I'll take up space. I come out, right? I'm here, I'm out. But ultimately, this comes down to the whole introvert, extrovert, and even ambivert. It comes down to how do you charge yourself? That's really the definition. And for me, it is 1000% with myself. Now, look, I'm recording a podcast with my homie, Chris, over here behind the scenes. Chris. And, between questions and between episodes, Chris and I are having epic conversations. I always leave studio feeling expanded, energized, really good. So there's an energy charge that is absolutely coming. I'm using a very real life in the moment example, just being in studio and getting to wrap out with my friend Chris, right? So this is where you could look at me and say that I'm an ambivert. but I need more than I need to time with others and love my time with others. I need time with myself to just be quiet and to hear myself and to feel myself and to just be in my own energy, because that really recharges me. So again, I mean, it's not maybe that sexy of an answer, or maybe even that, I don't know what I'm trying to frame up here, but it's a fucking real one. And I know when people hear it, they're like, no, you? Yeah, me. And I know that there's actually a lot of people in my position who are public facing forward, who have, who take up space and, communicate and have, personalities that, they also are like, I'm an introvert, because also what allows me to come out and be so present and give this energy is because I'm an introvert, and I get to recharge myself with myself. So it's interesting to sort of live in this space, being out here, be someone who is public facing forward, to be very charismatic, to take up space, but to absolutely tell you this truth that I am an introvert. I love that question. Thank you, Trey. Okay, Camilla from Texas. What's up? When facing a challenge, how do you know when it's time to soften or surrender and when it's time to be tough? Yeah, really good. Okay. So I think it's always a dance between both. I think there isn't, first, let me back up and say that I think it's a feeling. I think that when you're being stretched to the point where you feel like you're at your bandwidth, you've reached capacity. This is when we know it's time to soften. It just is. And softening doesn't mean quit. Softening or surrendering to the moment doesn't mean that you give up. It just means that you are honoring how you feel and you want to give yourself space so that you can recalibrate, so that you can get yourself back into that place where you can be grounded, where you're not dealing with resistance, where you can have the emotional resiliency and even maybe the physical. It depends on what you're going through, right? With the challenges. But I have found that when I know it's time for me to soften and surrender is when I just feel a lot of friction inside. So that means that whatever I'm facing, it's starting to, or maybe I'm even creating that resistance, right? I don't want to put gasoline on the fire in that moment at all. So for me, it's really that intuitive, and maybe it's not even so intuitive. Maybe it's very physical and you feel it, but when it's tension, right? Tension, friction, that to me is a sign that it's just time to back off for a moment. Even if it's, a small little moment, it doesn't mean, because maybe you got to keep, pushing through, but it's how you want to move through that push, right? That makes all the difference. And so as far as when is it time to be tough? And again, just to reiterate that I really think it's a dance, and it's like, it depends. And absolutely, this is so important. It depends on the challenge. If you're in a challenge right now and you are feeling that friction that I was talking about and that tension, and, no matter what you're doing, it just doesn't seem to be helping or moving you forward, or that is when it's time to back off, hands off the wheel, take a moment, meditate, do some journaling, get into nature, yoga nidra, like whatever, like try and laugh with friends, soften, hand on your heart, talk with yourself. Again, it depends on the challenge, but backing off is the thing to do in that moment, and realizing that that's the most badass move you can make in that moment. That is the way forward. It is not saying that you're quitting. I'm not saying become a victim and, throw your hands in the air and like, why me? No, that's not what I'm saying. It's honoring your energetics and knowing that you will only be beat when you are becoming rigid and fragile, right? Because you're breakable at that point. You don't want to be breakable. So you have to recalibrate, you have to center and ground in. And there are many ways to do that. And it just depends on your circumstance, situation. And then there's times to be tough. And those times are, for me, those times are fucking fun. Not necessarily because I like the challenge that I'm facing, but because I like the fighter in me. I love her, actually. She's gotten me to really incredible places in this life that I'm living. And there are times where, even in my fight and even in those moments where I got to get tougher, I think what is so special for me at this stage of my life, and it's so much of what I share on the show or through my writing, is that getting tough doesn't mean that you are forgetting about how you feel and that you are, putting distance between you and your heart, or you're becoming, it's I don't care how I feel. It's not that. It's you saying, I've got some hard shit in front of me that I've got to navigate. And I'm on my team. I'm here with me, and I'm going to fight. When the going gets tough, I get tougher. And we can do that because we can do hard things. I often say this. I've said this forever. You want to get to that place where the I turns into we. There's a we in here. It sounds so funny, but it is a very real thing. Because when you move from the I to the we, you are actually moving in partnership with yourself. So even in those moments where you got to fight, where you got to be tough, you are not dismissing any part of you. If anything, you are merging even more with yourself, right? And you're getting stronger and you're moving in partnership through that challenge, just with yourself. So when is it time for that? Well, you know when it's time. It's so important to realize that you have the answers. Are you trusting what you're feeling? Are you paying attention to what you're feeling? And then are you responding or ignoring what you're feeling? I know this through my mentorship, my coaching with women. It's like, there are so many times it's like, I don't know. It's like, no, you do. You're just not sitting with it long enough. We're going to sit here on that. Let's sit on that question. Let's sit on that feeling. Sit a little bit, invite them to go deeper, and then the answer comes. Of course it comes because it's in you. So I love this question. And I want to say that you already know. And sometimes it's just giving yourself permission. There are moments where, I remember one moment specifically, I was really navigating it was like a big challenge. And there was like this one day where I really was having to kick worry's ass or do my best. It was like me and worry, and, I was grappling with it. This is a long fucking time ago. And I was in that energy of worry, and I just, like there were tears. It was like that kind of thing. And then I remember the next morning, I went through this whole fucking day where I was just carrying that energy and grappling with it. And I woke up the next morning, I can see it in my head right now. And I opened my eyes, and the challenge was still fucking there. But so was I. And I just said, I'm going to fight. Fucking got out of bed. And my whole energy was just shifted. But it wasn't a departure from myself. It was more of a synthesis with myself, with the fire in me, with the fighter in me. And I got out of my bed and I fucking turned that whole thing around. Literally in that day, like the challenge, I won. I won. I'm seeing numbers on the clock right now that are a kiss from the universe. That was a side note. Means maybe nothing to all of you, but it does to me. I love you too, universe. Okay. So final part to the answer is you already know. Trust yourself. When you feel friction, soften. When you feel like it's time to move and fight and to get tougher, do it. Show up, rise up, stay with yourself, take the I, move it into the we, and keep it fucking moving. One of the affirmations I love to say to myself is, I am victory. So whatever you're going through, if you are going through something, or any of you, I mean, I think we're always going through something, say that to yourself and see how it feels. I am victory. And you'll know how to do that dance to get you to the victory, to surrender and to fight when necessary, or to be tough. Thank you so much for that question. You guys, I love these questions so much, and we have so many more to share on these Q&A Dear Roxy episodes. So I hope that you love it. I would love your feedback. You know, if this new style of content is on the show is really, if you're loving it, if it's supporting you, and if you have a question, I mean, let me know. If you have a question that you want me to share in this way, please DM me on Instagram. I want you to go to my Instagram, Roxy Look. It's in the show notes, ROXYLOOK. If you're not already in my community there. If you're not, please join me there. I do my best to keep my Instagram very informative, valuable for you, also for me. Like, it's just, I got to have fun with it. Story post for that. And it's just a good place for us to connect as well. So Roxy Look, and I will catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review.